Hello! Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes, that you find some inspiration along the way. I have no idea what day it is. I believe we're in the middle of August, year 2023. It is a beautiful blue sky, sunny day here in Minnesota, where I live with my husband and our 2 young children. Today's high, I believe, is in the mid-80s. It's pretty toasty. We have had some little sneaks of fall that is to come, with some mornings around sunrise being in the low to mid 50s. The other morning it was 52 degrees. I had all the windows open. It was so cool and crisp. And when the kids were eating breakfast, one of them said, "Mom, it's so cold. Can you close the door?" And I told her to put on a cardigan or a sweatshirt. Anyway, it is so nice out. And it has been getting warm again, and it will be warm. In the 10-day forecast, there are some very warm days coming up. But that little tease is so nice. I love cooler weather. I enjoy the summer when we have it, and usually our summer is like 3 months. Summer type of weather is about 3 months, and yeah, so middle of August. Right now it is us getting ready for school and wrapping up summer. We don't start school till September, so we do still have, I think, a little less than 3 weeks to go. And so it's school supply shopping, figuring out what we already have at home, what we can use from the previous year, and just kind of getting all that stuff together, and then signing up for fall extracurricular things for the kids, making sure things don't overlap one another, making sure I can get one from one place to the other at the correct time with the right kid, you know, all of that stuff. So yeah, just kind of that transition between summer and fall. We have had a good summer though, and it's been about, I think, 3-ish weeks since we last chatted. I believe I've gone to 2 art fairs since then, and I just love art fairs and festivals. There are tons of them in our area throughout the summer, and usually in the spring-ish time, when I'm itching for those summer activities, I start looking up all of our favorite ones, putting them all on the calendar to figure out, you know, what's happening when, which ones we can make it to. Because I feel like if they don't get marked on the calendar, they just like pass by, and sometimes you're like, oh wait, what about, you know, whatever, and then we missed it. So we have gone to 2 of them, and I did pick up things at both of them, so that's always fun. I've picked up earrings and mugs, which of course I love. And this mug actually is from one of the art fairs. It's by a local potter. And I'll try to find the information and put it in the description box below this video. I don't know if she ships online. I'm assuming she does. But yeah. Oh, I have a gnat in my coffee. Okay, I got out that gnat. I'll be right back. Okay, now that my coffee is gnat-free, we can continue. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, art fairs, the mug, got out the gnat. Moving on. I feel like I should have started with this first, but since I forgot, whatever, I'll just add it in now. If you are new here, usually the way I organize my videos is I start with a vlog, which captures some things from whenever I last recorded. Usually it's outdoors, nature, scenery, garden sneak peeks, things like that. And then I jump into an intro where I often talk about the weather, kind of what's going on in our lives, and then we jump into finished projects, and then works in progress, and then an eats and reads section where I might talk about things that I've been baking or cooking, books I've been reading, and then depending on if there's time and if I have thoughts put together in some sort of tangible way that I can express publicly, there will be a food for thought section. Garden is doing great. Right now we are in full-on dahlia season. We have probably about 6 different varieties. I couldn't tell you what they are. I don't remember names for stuff like that, but I can tell you the colors. Let's see, where's the handle? My husband had made this picture years ago. It's so beautiful. It's blue, different blues, and then this drippy glaze on it. But I'm using it as a picture for flowers. These ones are like a bright, bright yellow. And then we've got these big red ones here. They're probably a good, maybe 6 inches in diameter. And then we have these smaller orange ones. I have a few of them in here, and those are maybe 3 inches in diameter. Oops, I think I'm showing you a big red one. Here we go. Here's an orangey one. And then we have some that are not in this vase because I don't like to cut the ones that have buds coming out of like the same stalk or stem, because I don't find that the dahlias last very long after they're cut, and the buds then never get a chance to open, and so I just prefer to leave those out there. So I only cut the ones that have longer stems or have like a breaking off point where there's a bud on one and then a bloom on the other, so I'll just cut from there. So then some of the stems do end up a little bit shorter, but they still work just depending on the type of vase that I use. The other dahlias we have in the garden, there's one that's like a super, super dark purpley red that is so beautiful. And there's another one that's, I think it was kind of like a pinky purple orchid and one of those like tight ball cluster ones. And then there's one that came back from last year actually. And some of these are new, some of these are from last year. That's like more water lily-like, so there's like light pinks and lavenders and light yellows. It's so beautiful, and it's got like pointy ends to the petal. And that one I couldn't cut because I think there was a whole bunch stemming off from each other, and so the stems would only be like 4 inches long, which is a little tight to put in a vase when they're that short because the bloom is so big, so there's like not really room unless I just stick like 1 or 2, which can look cool too. But anyway, I picked these this morning, and there was another one, but it was so big that it wasn't really gonna fit. So I just put that in a vase by itself by the kitchen sink so I can look at it. As far as vegetables go, tomatoes are in full-on production, so every week I go pick a whole bunch, and either we use them for dinner that night or for the next day, and then whatever is remaining I'll wash and then put on a baking tray that's lined with a kitchen towel, dry them off, put them in gallon bags and freeze them flat. And they're so nice to have in the winter time or when tomato season is over. I can throw them into soups, make pasta sauces. I usually only do it for cherry tomatoes, not like the big ones. The big tomatoes we just eat. But the cherry tomatoes, often there's like tons of them, and so I can freeze them to use for later. I also needed to pull up some things that had gone to flowering and just kind of reorganize or clean up the garden a little bit. We have raised beds for some of the plants, and I just needed to really clean it up. It was a bit messy. And there are some plants that are frost hardy, and our first frost is usually in October, so those I just kind of leave alone. But some of the other ones that maybe are just kind of done, I just needed to clean it up, because if I wait until the frost happens, it's just all mushy and not very pleasant to clean up. Now today, I do have several finished projects to share with you. One is a sewing one. 3 of them are knit ones. And then I have a few works in progress to share. I believe one of them has not been on here yet. A couple of them are much older projects, or not older, long-term projects probably, that were started in, one was started in the spring and one was started in the beginning of June. And then I do have a couple of books that I would like to share with you today. I think 3 books, 2 of them I'm currently reading. Nope, 1 of them I'm currently reading, 2 of them I have finished. So we will get started. Before we get started, something I forgot to mention is that links to everything I talk about will be in the description box below this video. You can click on an arrow or something like that that says show more, so that information is down there. I try to include links to maker and material tool I can't think of the word right now, websites, so that you can find all the information you need there versus linking like specific products one by one. I do use Ravelry for all of my projects, so if that site is accessible to you, you will find needle sizes and yardage and all of that information there as well. I do try to include all of that information here on my YouTube channel, if not more, so that the information can be processed in a different way. And for those that do not use Ravelry, then you can also get the information here. If I speak too fast or too slow for your preferences, YouTube allows you to adjust the speed, and I do include closed captioning for all of my videos, so you just need to click on that CC button to get the captions. The first finished project I would like to share with you today is the one that I am wearing. I sneak peeked this project for you last time we recorded, which was about 3 weeks ago, which was before the pattern was released. I don't think I was done yet either, but anyway, it is done. The pattern has been released, and this is the Sun-Kissed Stripes by Tiffany Lynn. It is a lightweight fingering weight yarn shawl, and the pattern uses 3 colors, but I think you could use 2 colors if you wanted, multiple colors if you wanted. I think it could also look really cool in color changing yarn or hand spun. There are these different sections of texture. There are garter sections and slip stitch sections, but the texture is just really nice and engaging to work with, and yet you do not, or I did not find myself having to count a lot either. She does include stitch count totals at the end of each of these blocked sections, which I find really nice as just a quick check to make sure that I'm on track before continuing. You start in one corner and then it just grows and grows and grows, and there is this really nice picot edge bind off that is optional. I love a good picot edge bind off. I feel like it just gives it a little bit of something at the end. And I knit mine using 3 colors, and I used Pearl Soho's Santalina base, which is all plant fibers. I had been really wanting a summer weight shawl. Now I know a lot of people will use wool as their lightweight summer weight shawl, but I also wanted something that was machine washable. Reason being, in the summer, we are often coated in sweat, sunscreen, bug spray, sand, and I wanted something that I could just throw into the washing machine and not worry about it. I can still lay it flat to dry, although this material you can tumble dry on low heat, I think, but being lightweight, it also dries in no time. So as long as there's somewhere I can lay it out, or even outside, it's probably gonna dry pretty quick. So the Santalina base has 70% organically grown cotton, 20% rayon from bamboo, and 10% hemp. It comes in 328 yards for 100 grams. And my yardages were just slightly different from Tiff's sample because her sample uses a totally different yarn. I believe it's a Cormo fingering weight. Yes, hers is 100% non-superwash Cormo wool, and it's by North Bay Fiber. Now, North Bay Fiber has put together kits, and it's 3 skeins, and because their yardage is more per 100 grams, you can just use the 3 skeins. Because mine was a lower yardage per 100 grams, my main color, I needed more than 1. I needed, how many? I used almost 140 grams for my main color, and again, that's because my yardage per 100 grams was different. But she has some beautiful color combinations on her website, so if that is something you're interested in, having somebody else kind of help figure out that color story, definitely go check it out. North Bay Fibers, or Fiber, no S, North Bay Fiber. Now, I was dreaming up, once again, of a summer weight shawl that wasn't just the weight of it, but like I wanted the color. So of course it's called Sun-Kissed, and what came to mind were these like earthy pinks that I wanted. I don't have the original yarn up here with me, but they're pretty solid. So hopefully holding it up close, it won't be too hard to tell what the colors are. Beige Bunny is this like sandy, warm, taupey color. And then Peach Lily is a very light peach. And then my other color was, I purchased it from a sample sale. And so I think it's like number 5 or something. What is it? Yeah, sample number 5. And so that is not available for purchase, but the closest color would probably be Robin Redbreast, which is a little more vibrant and like a robin's color. So I really, really wanted this warm neutral palette. And again, I needed it to be easy care in the sense that it could be thrown in the washing machine, because I just didn't think a sink soak was gonna do it for all the things I mentioned above. I wear my knits, I wear my makes, and my summer lifestyle involves being outside a lot. And I just don't want to have to fuss with things being precious or then just not using them because I don't want to get them dirty or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I love it. I wanted it to be able to be something I could throw over my shoulders when it gets cooler or when we're at the lake and there's that breeze coming in, and oh, I just love it. It's so nice. And so being the asymmetrical, a large asymmetrical shape, triangular shape, I also find it really easy to wear. It's just something that I can just throw over and it's nice and drapey. And it also goes well over the shoulders. I think I'm a little bit too close. I'll bend down a little there. So yeah, I really like it. There's zero prickle because there's zero wool in it. And I think if somebody wanted to make one in all linen, that could be really nice too. Or just all cotton, that could be really nice too. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased with how this one turned out. So again, my yardages were a little different from the pattern. I ended up using 450 yards for my main color, which was the beige bunny. And in the sample it says approximately 430 yards, so I'm only off by 20 yards there. And then my sample color was my first contrast color, and I ended up using 263 yards. Pattern says 293 yards, so I came in under for that one. I don't know what happened, 30 yards less. And then my second contrast color is Peach Lily, and I used 227 yards of that one. Sample estimates 210 yards, so that one's only off by 17 yards, not bad. And I think some of it just depends on how loose you hold your slip stitches, or not hold, knit. I did use the recommended needle size, US 6, which is 4mm. Honestly, I didn't bother measuring the gauge too closely because just depending on where I'm measuring from, the weight of the shawl is going to change how that pattern measures up. And honestly, with most shawls, no, not most, with all shawls, I don't measure the gauge because it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's not going to affect my wear of it significantly if it's like slightly smaller or slightly bigger. So mine did come out a little bit bigger than the pattern. I also aggressively blocked it because I wanted to. And this edging here is a little tighter, so just make sure one of the sides of the edging just don't pull on the yarn too tight. And I just wanted to stretch that part out. It is nice though because that's the part that's around the neck, so it doesn't get stretched out. This edge though, I think doesn't have to be held super loose, otherwise it'll become wavy. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about it other than if you are looking for a shawl of this shape and approximately this size and just something kind of fun that's slightly engaging but not too engaging. I don't want to have my brain work too hard. It has to be fun. So, oh, I shouldn't say it that way because sometimes people find challenging things fun. And I'm not saying they can't be fun. I'm just saying I don't want to do that. So I found it engaging, and with the mini blocks, it broke it up into little milestones so I could set myself, I don't want want to say goals because it sounds like really serious. And for a test knit, I did have to block it out that way to make sure I finished on time, but that really wasn't a problem. There was an ample timeline for it, and I just really enjoyed knitting this a lot. Next up, we are going to talk about a hat. This hat, I used yarn from July's Sock Squad subscription from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers. The July one, let's see, was called Lupine? Or is it Lupin? I always called it Lupine, but I feel like I've heard people say Lupin. I don't know. If you know, let me know below in the comments. But here is my hat. This is the Held Together hat pattern by Lindsay of Larkspur Knits. And it is a DK weight pattern, so you hold fingering weight double. I held light fingering weight double. This sock base is a 463 yards for 100 grams, and it came with this little mini that is a light gray. And then I used, for this other contrast color, leftover yarn from another mini from July 2021, I think. Yeah, July 2021 Sock Squad. And so Sock Squad is a monthly subscription that's for a year, and it is put on by Candace's team at the Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and this year's theme is wildflowers and their pollinators. In previous years there have been other themes, and this is my 3rd year participating, and it's really fun. And yeah, so this pattern I used US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles. Again, the yarn is a light fingering weight yarn. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It is this beautiful deep, I would say maybe a deep periwinkle. I don't know, it's the color of lupine or lupin. Lupine, I don't know. And it is slightly lighter and darker in different areas. And there's a little bit of purple in there. And I just really, really like how it turned out. This is a ribbed hat that has a longer body section because the brim is folded up. Contrast colors use very minimal amount of yarn, so it's a great way to play with color, with little bits of yarn that you might have remaining from other projects. I used 84 grams of the main color, 6 grams of the first contrast color, and less than 2 grams of the second contrast color. And I cast on for the adult small, but I did the length of an adult large because I like hats to fit slightly more snug, and if they're slightly more snug, they're going to stretch a little more, and if they stretch a little more, then you lose some of the length. So then, to adjust for that, make the length a little bigger. It is very well fitted. The other benefit of a ribbed hat, or I don't know if I listed the first benefit, so I don't know why I said the other benefit, but one benefit of a ribbed hat is that there's so much stretch that it can fit a variety of head sizes, and that makes it a really good gift knit because you don't have to have the size just right. Another thing is having a fold over brim. Whoever has it, or even for yourself, maybe based on your preference for that day or how puffy your hair is that day, you can adjust how deep the hat sits on you. This one has stripes, but you could still not have as much of the main color showing on the bottom if you didn't want to fold it up as much, or maybe that day you want the bottom of your ears peeking out, then maybe you will fold it up higher. But as far as for a gift knit goes, since you don't maybe know how the other person likes to wear their hat, or maybe their hat preferences change throughout the day, you can also not worry about it because it's adjustable. So this hat I have knit several times. It is a go-to for me when I feel like using one skein of yarn plus a couple other colors. I think that the pattern is easy to follow. The crown decreases. I don't think the crown decreases look like this on the top. Next up, we have a pair of socks. Now, it might look a little familiar, and that is because I have stretched out one skein of yarn into 3 pairs of socks. Now, I did start out with more than 100 grams for that one skein. It was 107 grams to start. If I have a picture of it, actually I do have a picture of it, so if I remember, I will put a picture of it here on the screen so you can see what it looked like to start. And I knit both of my daughters a pair of socks using that yarn. So the 7-year-old I cast on 52 stitches. For the 10-year-old I cast on 56 stitches, and I used US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles. My gauge was at 8 stitches per inch. This yarn is by Nomadic Yarns. It's dyed by Ashley, and it's her twisty sock base, which is 400 yards for 100 grams at 80/20 superwash merino nylon. So the other 2 pairs of socks I've shown here before. Again, if I remember, I'll pop a picture of them here on the screen so you can see what they look like. I did change up their heels and toe colors. I think I did that for both of them. Or maybe just the heel. I don't remember. Pictures will be here on the screen. So then I had 20 something grams remaining for myself. 28 grams-ish remaining for myself. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do the top part solid and then do my feet in the stripes. And so here they are. Here are my socks. Oh, they turned out really nice. I just love them. They fit really well and they're just really comfortable and they're super fun. So if I'm wearing like tennis shoes or boots, well, I guess with boots you wouldn't see the sock anyway. But anyway, with shoes on is what I'm saying. You can't see the stripes. But then when you take the shoes off, you can see the stripes. So kind of a fun little like secret while you're walking around. So the cuff here is a fold over cuff, and I have a tutorial for that here on my YouTube channel. I will link to it below or on the screen here, probably just below. It's easier, I think. And I did make it slightly deeper because I knew my socks were going to be a little longer, so I just wanted it just slightly deeper. On the inside there's this teal, which is the very last remaining of a little mini that I had, and I'd used it in other projects already, I think in 2 other projects already, and so there was like a tiny bit left. I want to say how much was left of it, like minimal grams. I don't even have it on here. Oh, less than 3 grams. So I just used that up. It wasn't going to be noticeable anyway, so I split it between the 2 socks. It wasn't even super even, I don't think. And then I had this miscellaneous gray mini that I also used in one of the girls' socks. And that doesn't have a label. It was a mini gifted to me by a friend. And then I used West Yorkshire Spinners Solid 4-ply, which is a wool and nylon and Blueface Leicester yarn. So I used that. It's like a heathered navy. And then I did a shadow wrap short row heel. And then after knitting 5 rounds, then I started the foot. And based on my calculations, knowing the row gauge, I knew how far it would go. And then I think I had a stripe and a half or so remaining at the very end, and I just didn't use it because it just would have ended in like an awkward spot. And so I used a total of, I think, 26 grams. There was 1 gram remaining basically. And so I finished off with the navy for the toe, and it just worked out really, really well. So I do recommend that if you have remaining precious self-striping yarn, this could be a fun way to use it. And you could do it in the foot or the leg, depending on what you want to do. But I find that oftentimes I have maybe 20-ish grams remaining from knitting a pair of socks. Now, it'll depend if I'm knitting my kids' socks or my socks or my husband's socks, but sometimes there's just a little bit left over and not quite enough to make a bigger project, but plenty to put in the foot of a sock. And even if it was less than this, I could have started it later or just ended it earlier, and it can still be like a fun stripy band. And then for my own socks, I did a 60 stitch cast on, which I find works pretty well for my feet. My foot circumference is 8 inches, and I find when I cast on for 64 stitches, it's just not snug enough. I don't love it. And I've done 56 stitches before for a heavier weight yarn or maybe like a sport weight yarn, but I find 60 stitches to be a good number for me. Last finished project to share with you today is this project bag. Oh, it's so lovely. Maybe I'm like on a bicycle thing. I do bike, but not like avidly or anything. I enjoy biking. So I guess I was in like a bike mood because this mug has a bike on it and there's like a little basket. I remember deciding between two different bike mugs. One was taller and the bike was slightly smaller, but there was no basket, and I really wanted the one with the basket. So anyway. These bikes have baskets too. Some of them have it on the front, some of them have it on the back, but they're carrying flowers, and I love flowers. Something silly that I did is when I was cutting out the fabric, I accidentally nicked one of my pieces in a spot I didn't want cut. And so I've done this before, and I'll usually use like a buttonhole stitch, which is very, very like dense stitching to basically mend that spot. But I didn't notice it until I was already assembling, and I still could have done it at one point, but then I just forgot. I probably had to set stuff down and go do something and come back. So by the time I realized that it was still there, it was a little late. And it's only like half a centimeter, I think, because of the seam allowance, but it was bugging me. And then you know how sometimes if things are bugging you, the more you mess with it, the worse it gets? Well, that's what was happening. Because then I thought, okay, well maybe if I just by hand do a button stitch up, it will be fine. Well, no, because the weave is it's still dense, but it's on canvas, and so the threads were coming apart, and I was making the hole bigger. So then I panicked, and I thought, okay, I'll just put fray check on it. And fray check is like a liquid that you use in sewing to, well, basically keep things from fraying. It's like clear nail polish, basically. So then I thought, okay, I'll do that, and then it'll be fine. I shouldn't have panicked, because then when I did that, it left, once it dried, not only was it now stiff there, but it was slightly different in color, which I knew would happen, but I wasn't thinking. So then I thought, okay, let me try to rub as much of it out as possible so that it can be soft again and not be discolored or as discolored, and I'll do something else. Mind you, this is like a teeny spot, okay? And I'm making it bigger and bigger because I keep panicking, like panic fixing it. So then I let it sit for a couple days, and then of course when you look at it later, it really is not that noticeable. And for me, it isn't so much if anybody else will notice it. It sounds callous to say I don't care, but I really don't care if anybody else notices it. It's whether or not something bothers me, because it's my bag and I'm using it, right? So then once I calmed down over this teeny tiny spot, which I did need to fix because at some point it will probably start fraying, which will then show the interfacing inside, and anyway, I just didn't want that to happen. So then once I got my wits about me, I decided I would do like visible mending on it and just stitch kind of around it with some thicker thread, sewing thread that I had. And then because I didn't have a color that exactly matched the bag and I didn't want to go out and just buy one spool of thread, I used a color that I thought would match, not in color, but match, like look nice with it. So I picked a gold, and I'm going to show you what all this fuss is all about. So this is green canvas. And here I had a slight notch that was just bugging me. So then I picked this gold thread that I had that was a little thicker than some other standard thread. I don't know what weight it is. And I just kind of stitched all over the place. It is not the tidiest stitching. I probably pulled a little too tight in some spots, so the fabric puckered a little. But I super ironed it. And by super ironed it, I just meant like I pressed a lot over that spot to try to smooth it out. And I think it looks just fine. Because now, instead of seeing a teeny tiny cut, and instead of seeing the slightly bigger blotch from the fray check, and instead of seeing all the edges that I kind of made worse, now it's a very visible spot. that looks kind of nice because I think it just kind of goes with the whimsical vibe of it, and now it doesn't bother me. So that's my saga on that part. I always do this little spiel here, which some of you who've been watching for a long time may be tired of it. Sorry, not sorry. I say it because if I don't say it, somebody, more than one person, inevitably asks, and then I get annoyed that I didn't say it. I do not follow a pattern for my project bags. There are tons of project bag tutorials out there, some paid for, some free, and I encourage you to do your own research and see what works for you. I just do whatever I feel like doing. So this is a tote bag with a drawstring closure, and this one does have fusible fleece interfacing in it, so it's slightly more sturdy. There's canvas on the bottom. I have a boxed bottom, and this is quilter's cotton on top, and there's quilter's cotton on the inside. Sometimes I do a pocket inside, sometimes I don't. This one I didn't. And yeah, I love how the colors are playing together in this. I think it's fun and bright and cheerful and summery, but also gives me that vibe of summer going into autumn. Maybe because there are sunflowers, and some of the baskets look like dahlias or zinnias or mums even. So yes, I adore it. And when we jump into the works in progress section, I will probably show you what's inside of this bag, because I made it for this next work in progress. So maybe we'll jump into that next. On to the works in progress section. I think we're gonna go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 works in progress today. Yeah. We're gonna go through 5 of them. The first one I'm gonna share with you is in this project bag, and the reason I made this is because I needed something slightly bigger than what I had already, and honestly, I just felt like sewing one. So this is my half and half triangles wrap. It is a free pattern written by Jake Canton for Purl Soho. The pattern is less than a page long, so if you are curious as to the construction and make of it, I would recommend you go to Purl Soho's website and read the pattern. It is a large garter shawl that is constructed with short row shaping, so you cast on for all your stitches from the beginning, and then short rows are how you create this 2 triangle color pattern. They do have a striped version of this pattern also on their website for free. I have deviated some from the pattern. I have cast on 260 stitches, and I'm using a US 4, which is a, what is a US 4? 3.5 millimeter needle. And instead of having a garter edge on the pattern, I am slipping 2 stitches on the edges. I do have a video on my YouTube channel here on my modifications, and I'm doing slightly different things this time compared to that video, but if you want the general idea of my modifications, go there. I use German short rows instead of the wrap and turns in the pattern, and I am using more than 2 colors this time. And I cast this project on June 1st, year 2023. I anticipate this project to take me about 6 months, so you will hear more about it. I don't plan on sharing it every single time unless there is something that's exciting me that I want to share with you about it. And there is something that's so exciting this time that I just am so delighted to share it with you. So this one is called Love Letters. And I believe in June when I was talking about it, I mentioned that all of my half and half triangles wraps have names assigned to them based on a time period maybe in my life, or something that it reminds me of, some sort of theme, maybe what the colors are speaking to me about, or some thoughts that are ruminating in my heart and in my brain. This one is called Love Letters because of lots of different things, but one of the reasons, or not reasons, but one of the stories behind it is all these makes that we make as kind of like love letters to ourselves. A lot of times I'm knitting as a self-care project. But also this is a project that as long as, at least when it was smaller, it was easier to take places. But to the lake, to the beach, while we're at home and I'm helping my kids get ready for bed and while I'm waiting for them to fall asleep. But it's something that I knit on almost every day, and you're stitching, not you, I'm stitching memories into each stitch, and it seems a little big to say that it's a story of my life, but I don't know how else to put it. Like it's more than just a project. And I've also been doing a lot of reading while I knit on this project because I don't have to look at it. It's basically all knit stitches except for that one stitch that gets turned for the double stitch or the wrap, however way you're doing your short rows. And yeah, so this one's called Love Letters. And I'm going to, maybe I should hold it up from, oh, that's okay. We're just gonna we're gonna stop the suspense. Okay, here we are. Here it is. It's so pretty. Okay, the first color I have on here is Peony Pink, which is a light, very light pale pink. And then we transition into Bright Flamingo, which is like a fluorescent coral. And then we go to Raw Sienna, which is a raw sienna. It's kind of like a browny yellow ochre. And then this new color is Dark Denim. And Pearl Soho recently had a sale for their linen quill, and that's when I picked this one up. So beautiful. It's like a very dark navy that's heathered looking because of how the linen doesn't take dye the same as the rest. So this is all done in Pearl Soho's linen quill yarn, and something about these colors. So I feel like, okay, going with the Love Letters theme, this Peony Pink is like that soft and sweet words, maybe that flutter in your stomach. And you know, when I'm talking about love letters, some of it is like romantic, some of it is platonic friendships maybe, some of it is family love, some of it is love of things, some of it is self-care love. It's all of that, okay? And then Bright Flamingo is like that exciting, thrilling love. And then we've got Raw Sienna, which is like cozy. We're talking about like that hot cup of coffee with freshly baked cookies, the crunch of the leaves at the beginning of autumn when you're walking on the street and that chill comes by and you kind of adjust your shawl and your scarf a little. That kind of love. And then we've got this Dark Denim, because with love also comes, I don't want to say like the dark side, but you know, there's grief and sadness, and dark blue doesn't have to just be grief and sadness, but I think with some of the books I've been reading lately, there is a theme of grief throughout that goes hand in hand with love as well. And there is something calm about it too. I mean, it also is tumultuous, but there's something still about it. And yeah, so these are my 4 here, and once I'm done with this Dark Denim, I'm going to add in another skein of the Peony Pink. And then my second half of this wrap will have different color combinations as well. So at the end of it all, I should have 8 colors total. And I'm looking forward to sharing that second half of the story with you as well once I get going on that. But yes, I'm thrilled with how this is turning out. This first part here, the Peony Pink, I turned 60 stitches, and then each of these contrast colors, I'm turning 20 stitches. And then we'll see how far my second skein goes, but hopefully it should finish off the rest up to the 260 stitches. So that's where I'm at with this. And oh, here I have a progress keeper that I made. It's kind of a cross between a zinnia and a dahlia. It's polymer clay, and this is polymer clay that I've had since the 90s, so it's probably not in the best condition, but you know what? It works. And then this stitch marker is professionally made by Reshma of Hello Lavender. It's also polymer clay, and I'm sure her clay is not from the 1990s. And I swapped these out from what I had before because I like to swap things out as the seasons change and as I reach various milestones on various projects, because, I don't know, I just like doing that. So, as the project was growing, it outgrew its previous bag, and so I sewed this one up to hold the project. And then once it outgrows this one, I have a bigger one that's already ready to go, like I made it before, that I'll put it into, and then that should last it, I would think, through the rest of it. We'll see. Okay, the next project I'm going to share with you is also a long-term project. This one, I believe I started in the spring, and I'm hoping to finish, I started it in April, and I'm hoping to finish it this fall, but we'll see. This is coming from not a blanket knitter, but I am making this special gift for a special friend who is undergoing multiple month medical treatment. And I started it when I first heard of her diagnosis, when she first let me know. And yeah, I'm slowly working on it. Here we are! I've made good progress though. So it is a modified Amazing Log cabin blanket, which is a free pattern on Pearl Soho's website. That pattern uses a sport weight yarn. I am holding 2 sport weight or heavy fingering weight yarns double for an Aran weight. And so I've also changed my needle size. I'm using a US 8, which is a 5mm needle. But the basic construction I am using the pattern for. So I have, these yarns are Knit Picks Hawthorne, which the website says is fingering weight, but honestly at 357 yards for 100 grams, I think it's closer to sport weight. And it is an 80-20 fine Highland wool nylon blend, and it was important to me that the yarn or the project would be machine washable. If anybody got sick on it, they have a toddler, I just didn't want the fuss, and I want them to use it. And so yeah, I started with this block in the center, and then I picked up and did the 2 blocks on the side of 4 stripes each. And then now I just need to pick up just the long parts and do those stripes. The pattern has the blanket much bigger, but I'm going to stop after I do probably 4 stripes on each side of this, and I'm pretty excited about it. I do have, well, earlier when I posted about it on Instagram, I was thinking I was going to need more yarn, but I think if I calculate it just right, each stripe, that long stripe along the long edge, should take about 40 to 45 grams, I think. 45 grams per stripe. And so I need to weigh the yarns that I have. I don't know if I can show it to you without it all falling out. I need to weigh the yarn that I have and see if I have, I think I should have, at least 45 grams in 8 colors. And if I don't have it for 8 colors, I can do it in 7 and take the largest cake, which I think this color here, this beautiful bluey dark green, I have not used yet. So it should be at 100 grams. Which color is this? Is this Serpent? This one might be Serpent colorway, and I think I have 103 grams. So if that's the case, I can use this on the top and the bottom as the first stripe and then go from there. And that way, if I only have 7 colors that are at least 45 grams, I should be fine. So again, here are the colors. And here is my blanket in progress. So it'll be a decent size lap blanket, which I think will be perfect for anytime use. Next project, I started beginning of June, and I'm hoping to finish it in the next week. I was not going to rush it to finish it today, because then that would delay my recording, and then I wasn't sure if I would get to it. So I was just not going to worry about it. This is my 4th coloring book raglan, which is a pattern by Amy Scher. I really like this pattern. I feel like it's a nice staple DK or worsted weight raglan sweatshirty type of pattern. It is written for various views in sleeve length and in body length. There are striping, motif is not the right word, striping something. Different stripe views that you can do, and I decided, I don't know if you'll remember this from way back when I first shared it, because I didn't work on it for a little bit, so I didn't share it here, but maybe it was a month or more than a month ago. I changed it up. So for the stripes in the body, I'm using a different yarn but similar color with a different texture. I'm just gonna show it to you so you can see where I'm at. Dun 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 dun! Oh, it is so nice. Okay. Oops, am I losing stitches here? Hold on. Okay, I have cast on for size 2, which should give me about 5 inches of positive ease. Because this yarn is mostly cotton, the gauge may stretch out some or not, or I can always pop it in the dryer if it ends up being a little bit too big. It's got a deeper raglan yoke, which is nice because for me this will be a layering piece. I want it to be something I just throw on over anything. Now it might not be so easy to put on with a winter coat, but that's not my intended use for it, so we're good. I am using US 6 needles for the ribbing instead of the US 7 in the pattern, and a US 8, which is a 5mm needle for the rest of the fabric for the stockinette portion. The main yarn I am using is by Pearl Soho. It is the Morning Base, which is a 75% cotton, 25% yak, 191 yards for 100 grams in the colorway Cucumber Ice, which is a very pale minty green. And then for my stripes, I am using Pearl Soho's Serif Base, which is 100% Pima cotton. And there's this like crinkliness about it, which I'm not sure if it's showing very well here. There, I think if I turn it like this, you can tell the subtle color difference. And that colorway is Soft Aloe, and it comes in 164 yards for 100 grams. So I had one skein of this contrast, and so I divided it up in 3. Or no, I did not divide it up in 3. Once I got to that portion, I knit around, figured out how much it was per round, figured out how I could divide it into equal striping while using the most amount of yardage. So I was able to use 3 stripes, 98 grams, and it worked out really well. I had 5 grams remaining, and I decided to omit the striping in the sleeves because I didn't want it. And yeah, I have one sleeve done, and I'm doing the sleeve slightly differently from the pattern too. Mine are a bit longer, and I did a little bit of decreasing before the cuff. I really like how it looks here. I don't know if it'll show up very well, but I like how the decreases look here going into the cuff. I did some rapid decreasing like every round, but only on the sides of this ribbing detail. Looks kind of cool, right? And one design feature of this is this rib detail that goes along the underarm and also along the body, which then goes into the hem. So that continuous ribbing detail is pretty cool. So I have one sleeve left to go, and I also knit mine I think a little bit longer. This might be the full length view, I don't really remember. I just knit to where I want it to fit on my body. But the sleeves are definitely longer than the elbow-ish length sleeve in the pattern, but not quite as long, and it's not tapered like the other view in the pattern. But yeah, I am really liking how this is knitting up, and I cannot wait for it to be finished. I really want it to be finished. It is not a fall color, it's more like a spring and summer color, but I definitely feel like this adds to my spring summer collection, if you will, for things that are machine washable and easy to throw on. So I'm thinking like this is something that is like a sweatshirt. It's boxy, there's no waist shaping, the sleeves are bigger so you can throw it on over, you know, plaid flannel shirts, a button up, or I'm thinking of it as something that I can bring to the lake and throw on over a swimsuit or whatever if it's chilly. And yeah, it's so nice. It's drapey and soft and has a nice weight to it, and I'm just looking forward to having it done so that I can wear it. 2 more works in progress to chat about today. The next one is using my Sock Squad yarn from August by the Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and here's the calendar for this year, wildflowers and their pollinators, and here is the one for August. I'm gonna hold it up here. Hopefully it doesn't get super blown out so that you can still see it. Okay. So this is a pattern I've also knit before, not super successfully, but it's been a couple of years, so I'm trying again. But I'm also modifying it, so I think it'll be better than before. Not that it'll make the pattern better, but it'll be better for my fit. Yeah. So this is the Ripple Bralette, but modified to be a camisole. It is a pattern by Jessie Made Designs, and she does have a pattern for the camisole as well, but since I don't have that pattern and I do have the pattern for the bralette, I am just modifying it for the camisole. They're the same gauge, and I think things are slightly different in there, but a lot of the circumferences, at least for the ones that I'm looking at, are similar enough that I can make it work for me. So I am using less ease than the pattern states because I'm knitting it for a camisole, and my purpose of it is to be an underlayer in the fall and the winter and spring. I am not planning on wearing this as like a camisole tank top for the summer because I don't really wear them out like that in the summer anyway, and it'll be in wool. So this one is using the August yarn, and this base is the Rocky Mountain Pearls at 400 yards for 100 grams. It's 80/20 superwash, blue faced Leicester, and nylon. And here is what the main color looks like. It's a creamy base with some olivey green subtle speckling. I really like it, and I feel like this yarn really softens up with wear and with blocking. I will say I had some issues with winding that has nothing to do with the yarn and everything to do with my winder. Something went off calibration basically, and it was just making a mess. And I spent so much time untangling, but I was not gonna give up. So finally we got it kind of figured out so that it would work right, but by then I had already untangled several different times because I kept thinking I could fix it. And my yarn ended up being in like 4 different balls, which is fine because I can just join it. But it made the untangling process much easier if I just cut when I just like couldn't figure out where it would go. Anyway, so that was annoying. But here it is, and it looks teeny tiny like a hat, but only because it will stretch out with blocking. So this ribbing will stretch out to be more like this, and I am knitting a size medium so that I will have 5 inches of negative ease bust circumference, but no ease at my natural waist. So hopefully everything will block out the way it's supposed to. And then also I did some math and figured out it would take about 6 grams for each additional inch of length. And I plan on knitting this to 12 inches, it's bottom up, before the shaping part happens and the front and back division of stuff. So I'm thinking I should only need about 20 grams for that part, including the straps. So as long as I save 20 grams at the end, I should be okay. Work in progress, we will see what happens. I am anticipating it to be done by the time we sit down to chat next, which might be in a few weeks. So we'll see where we go with that. I'm over halfway through with the body. Just try to envision it like stretched out bigger, okay? Because right now I know it looks like a hat, and it's on 16-inch circulars, so which is what I use for hats. But it will be much bigger, and it does stretch out. I like how the speckling is distributed in this fabric. I also feel like when something is done in ribbing, it distributes out the speckling more, so there's less pooling happening. But yeah, so that's what's going on with that. And I am using US 4 or 3.5 millimeter needles. And yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about that one. Last work in progress is a sweater I am knitting for our 10-year-old. And when I finish this one, I will have to start one for our 7-year-old. And yeah, hopefully I get this one done in the next couple of months as well. This is the Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. It is a free pattern. Flax Sweater is written for worsted weight or DK weight. I think you can do it. I've done it in DK weight. But the gauge is at 18 stitches by 22 rounds in 4 inches of stockinette using US 8 or 5 millimeter needles. And I am knitting the adult small for our 10-year-old because 2 years ago I knit her the 8 to 10 year size, and it still fits, but if I knit the 8 to 10 year size again, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's gonna get as much wear, right? So I'm knitting the adult small size, which has a finished circumference of 31 inches, which should give her, I'm gonna say like 5 or 6 inches of positive ease. Where's my info on that? Anyway, I can't find it. So it should give her about 5 to 6 inches of positive ease, I think, and I'll probably just shorten the body a little bit because she likes to wear a lot of dresses with leggings, and if it's too long, it just kind of sits awkwardly on her body. But this is where I'm at. Oh, and she wanted the flax sweater because she liked hers from 2 years ago. She likes the bumps along the arm. There's this garter panel that runs along the arm. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. I can knit the flax again. So here we are. Here's the beginning. It is knit top down. One change that I've made so far is I did a fold over collar. The neckband I find a little wide on the flax. And so I doubled the length of ribbing and then knit it to the cast on edge. I think I also went down another needle size. So instead of a US 6 for the ribbing, I did a US 5. And that brought it in much closer. I tried it on her. She loves the feel of it. I know it'll relax a little bit when I wash and block it. And this is 100% superwash merino, which means it'll also, you know, relax a little bit more. But I think we have a little bit of wiggle room and it'll be really comfortable. The yarn I am using is Malabrigo Rios in the peachy color. And it's got a little bit of different coloring to it, light and dark peachy pinks. It's really beautiful. Here's the garter panel. I feel like it's showing up really well. This yarn is very round and has great stitch definition. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. She loves it, and I'm just slowly working away on it. I think I can devote more time to it once I finish my coloring book, Raglan. Again, there's just one sleeve left on that, and so then I can really focus on her sweater and have it done hopefully sometime in September, October. The Raglan part I need to focus a little bit more on just to know when I'm doing the increases and when I'm supposed to be purling or knitting straight through for that garter panel. And then once I get to the body, it's just round and round stockinette. And then for the sleeves, it's round and round, but then again, I have to pay attention to that garter paneling. But I don't think I'll be doing any decreased shaping. It'll just be solid all the way, knit even all the way through until right before the cuffs. On to eats and reads. I don't think I have a ton of stuff to talk about eating wise. I mean, I've still been cooking, and then on some of the cooler days I've baked some, but nothing that I can recall that I like really wanted to share here. So we're gonna jump into reading. I have 3 books that I want to talk about. One of them, let's see, the first one is Out of the Clear Blue Sky by Kristan Higgins. It was recommended to me by somebody, I think on the previous video. They thought I might really like this book, and I did really like it, so thank you very much. It is, I want to say, almost 500 pages. It was published in June 2022. It is based in Cape Cod, and the main character is a 41-year-old daughter of a Portuguese fisherman, and she is a nurse midwife, and her mother is a lawyer. I don't remember her mother's heritage. For some reason I want to say German, but might not be. And she is portrayed to have this perfect life, at least what she thinks is a perfect life, with her husband and her son and their beautiful home. But then things take a turn pretty quickly, starting like in the book pretty quickly. And you learn about how she views herself as a wife, a daughter, a sister, a mother, and she lives in this small town, and so like everybody's in everybody's business. And I really enjoyed it. It's a, what would it be classified? Contemporary women's fiction, maybe? I don't know. I don't know my book categories very well, but I think that's what it would fall under. I did really enjoy it. I did connect with the characters. I felt for them. I laughed. I cried. There were some parts that like really hit me hard, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. The other book I read was Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries, and it's by Heather Fawcett. This one was published January 2023, and I would classify this one as like a cozy fantasy, maybe? Cozy fantasy. The time frame goes from like fall to spring with a kind of a focus on winter, I think. I enjoyed the character building. I did find that there was a slight lack of chemistry, for me at least, between the two characters that were supposed to be romantically involved or end up more romantically involved. And it's a grumpy and sunshine trope. And I don't know, I didn't feel like it was really there, or there could have been more build up in that part. I don't know. There was action in it, but I felt like the action came later and it was like over in a few pages. Like the plot thickened, and then there was this like exciting part, but it was like this build up and then it was like over. So I don't know. There's a second book that's supposed to be coming out. I don't know if I'm gonna read it yet. We'll see. I was on the wait list for quite a long time to get this book, and so maybe there was some anticipation built up, but I still enjoyed it. It just wasn't like, I don't know. Would I read it again? Maybe. I don't know. The setting is in like a tight-knit, isolated village in Norway, or like off of the coast of Norway, somewhere in there. There were a lot of words I couldn't pronounce. And, oh, there are fairies, but not like your Tinkerbell type of fairies. Mischievous ones and some gruesome ones, and I feel like it leans towards like the darker side of Grimm Brothers fairy type of things. And yeah, I would say I still enjoyed it. I did still enjoy it. There were just some things about it that were like, really? I don't know. So, still liked it. The third book I want to talk about is one that I'm currently reading, and I am really enjoying it. I was also on the wait list from the library for this book for quite some time, months really. And most of the books I get are all from the library. There are very few books that I end up buying. This one is called Remarkably, Bright Creatures by Shelby von Pelt. And it's a Swedish woman in her 70s, and she befriends an octopus at the aquarium that she works at. Now it sounds quirky, which I like quirky, but it's also so like heartwarming, and I have become emotionally invested in this octopus and in this woman and in the small town that she lives in. It's based in like the Puget Sound area, Northwest Washington of the United States. This one's also considered a contemporary fiction / mystery. I feel like there's definitely a lot of running stories throughout that all kind of come together. At least I'm pretty sure they're all going to come together. So like different chapters will be told from different characters' point of view, which sometimes bother me and sometimes don't. And in this one, I feel like it works. This book is about 360 pages. It was published in May of 2022, and I believe it's this author's first book. Okay, something interesting that happened in all three of these books is there's actually knitting in all three of these books. Not as any sort of central focus, but it's mentioned in all three of them, which I thought was kind of fun. And I've been reading all of them while I've been knitting, so anyway, kind of cool. That is it, my friends. The sunlight has shifted dramatically around here, and my coffee is very cold. Usually by now I'll have changed out my coffee and done something else, but this time I just wanted to try to do as much as I could in one run. Not in one go. I start and stop. I don't have that stamina or brain power to be able to record in all one go. Some people do it and I am so in awe of you. I can't do it. But yes, we have made it to the end, and you know what? I never told you where my shirt was from. I wanted to tell you and I kind of forgot. It says Fuel Up on Fiber. It has delicious foods that have a yarny element added to them. It is by Tao Nguyen of the Nerdbird Makery. I don't know if she still sells them on her website. I know they were sold out pretty quickly after I bought them, but I don't know if she did another run of them. She has a website that will be linked in the description box below this video. I bought this a few years ago and I really like it. It has washed really well and it's really comfortable, and the V-neck's not too deep for me, and I just like the characters a lot. And my kids want one too, but I'm pretty sure they're sold out. So at least last I looked. I don't know if there's going to be another update for the shirts at any time, but my kids really want this shirt and I told them they can't have it because it's mine. Anyway, there will be no food for thought section today because there just won't be. I hope you are doing well. It is a scary world out there, but we each can do something to make it a little better for the people around us, for people we don't even know. We all have something that we can contribute to make it better. Maybe that's my food for thought. With that, cheers to being creative. I hope you are doing well, taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!